Hi, AP Seminar, Mr. Muller here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about counterclaims. There are a lot of different perspectives about any topic that you're going to be researching and writing about, so you have to note those alternate perspectives, but you have to also defeat those perspectives in order for your argument to be taken seriously. We're going to be talking about how to do that process. Hope you're excited. I'm excited. Let's get started. Now, this is a basic structure of how to counterclaim should be introduced in an argumentative essay or in a presentation. First, you're going to note what the counterclaim is. My opponents will say, or alternate authors who have this other view say. Then you put in the rebuttal. Here's the counterclaim, but here's why it's invalid, or here's why my argument's stronger. Throw in the evidence to support your rebuttal, give some analysis or explanation of what that evidence means in terms of your rebuttal, and then close it off. That's how you should introduce counterclaims. So let's go through this structure. First thing is you always give your topic sentence. You introduce the counterclaim. Now you should pick the strongest reason from those alternate perspectives. If you pick a weak counterclaim, it's not going to lend to the credibility of the argument that you're making. Typically you want to start with sentences like, my opponents will say, some will say. You might want to note the author, John Smith, PhD of economics at Columbia University, notes that. You could say, while it's true that. And you want to really use a strong signal phrase here. If you just say opponents, I mean, that typically works, but you really want to nail down who is saying that if you can find that evidence. So here's an example. Meatisgood.org have conducted research demonstrating that a diet without meat cannot possibly provide a completely nutritious and balanced diet. So here's a counterclaim, and the original claim probably was something to the effect of vegetarianism is an effective alternate lifestyle that provides nutrition for people. Here's your counterclaim saying there's this source that says, no, you need meat in your diet. So there's the counterclaim. Let's talk about the rebuttal. Now I have to give a reason why that counterclaim is flawed. And typically, I want that to be based on stronger evidence that I'm noting. For example, here's the rebuttal. However, studies from the American Dietetic Association have shown that a vegetarian diet can and does deliver complete nutrition and can even provide health benefits. Now, one thing that's really important there is that I introduced evidence that by its reputation is much stronger than meatisgood.org. I use the American Dietetic Association, which is going to be a stronger piece of evidence that will be able to overcome that counterclaim. So when you use a rebuttal, make sure you're using strong evidence to overcome it. So now that I've noted that rebuttal, it's almost like a subclaim, right? Now I have to use evidence to support it. Now, you also need to include analysis. Why is that evidence significant to defeat that counterclaim? So here's the example. The evidence is in green and the analysis is in yellow. The American Dietetic Association found that, quote, a vegetable diet can meet protein requirements, provide all the essential amino acids, and improve health. Now, you can tell this is an APA format because they know the page number. The journal adds that according to the USDA and the Food and Culture Organization of the United Nations, quote, meat is not an essential part of a healthy diet. So there's the information. It's also knowing the USDA and knowing the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Reputable sources, very strong sources. That evidence you really can't argue with. You say, all right, that's credible and it's enough to defeat that counterclaim. Here's the analysis. Not only does the ADA disprove my opposition's claim, it strengthens my argument that you should switch to a vegetarian diet by saying that meat is inessential to one's diet. Now, if I'm being really picky, you really shouldn't use you should write that in a more professional setting, but it shows that you're taking that evidence and you're saying, now, what does this evidence mean? How does it directly connect to the rebuttal that I'm using to defeat that counterclaim? That's where your analysis comes in there. And that's what you do next. At the end of a counterclaim, you just need a closing sentence. Just sum up everything you've said, driving the point home that although there's these opposing views, My argument is more valid using credible evidence. So for an example, while many may believe a meatless diet requires an imbalanced diet, the research speaks for itself. A vegetarian lifestyle is the way to go. Now, if I'm being really picky, this really isn't that professional. I'd expect you to write a much more professional closing sentence, but I gave you more of a simpler one just to see the essential components of that part. So let's look at one more example here. And this is combining the counterclaim, rebuttal, evidence, and closing. What I'd like you to do first is, before I read this out and tell you what those parts are, read this for yourself, write it down even, and then highlight what's the counterclaim, what's the rebuttal, where's the evidence, where's the analysis, where's the closing. Just take some time, identify those parts right now. Have you identified those parts? All right, let's go through it. It's true that Jamie Oliver, a chef and enemy of chocolate milk, argued that chocolate milk does have added sugar. There's the counterclaim. Jamie is a famous English chef who is involved with Lunch for Kids in schools in Los Angeles. In a shocking video, Jamie shows a school bus filled with sugar to show how much sugar school kids get from chocolate milk. Okay, so this is introducing the counterclaim. They're noting the author, so they're doing a little bit of a signal phrase on who the author of this counterclaim is, which is good. They also give a little bit of contextualization about where that counterclaim came from, so making sure that the author and myself as a reader were on the same page and completely understanding what that counterclaim was and where and how it was created. Here's the rebuttal. But there are a lot of school kids in the U.S., and if you divide that busload up between all the kids, it will not be such a shocking amount. If you put next to it a bus filled with the vitamins A, D, E, and calcium that kids get, the picture might seem very different. So there's the rebuttal. Now let's see where they put in the evidence. That's why we should keep serving chocolate milk at school. It gets kids to drink milk, it gives them vitamins, and builds good habits. That's building off the rebuttal. Personal insider experience supports this claim. So they're introducing the evidence here. Again, it doesn't really seem like a strong piece of evidence at this point if I'm looking at the signal phrase, because it just says insider experience. I'd love to know more about the source that they're going to be using here. As a 7th grader, this investigator was part of an experiment to ban chocolate milk in his cafeteria. 7th graders, though, are allowed to go out for lunch. With no chocolate milk, this luncheon seeker started going out for pizza and Coke. Gone were all the vitamins and calcium. So what this person's saying is that they did original research in this to try to attack that counterclaim. Now, I could go a lot more into is this really credible or not. I'd have to look at the data for that, but they're introducing that evidence. With no chocolate milk, let's get to the Jamie Oliver section. Jamie Oliver doesn't necessarily know what happens inside schools. Okay, here's the analysis and explanation. When something is taken away at lunch that is even a little good for you, it's not always replaced by something better or anything at all. In fact, the vitamins from chocolate milk may possibly be the only ones some kids get in school lunch. So they're taking that evidence and connecting it back to their rebuttal, which is trying to defeat the counterclaim. Not only is that analysis telling me why it's important, but it's also showing connection and flow between everything. It's showing that synthesis. It's showing that everything's connected. Here's the closing. So keep chocolate milk, kids' main source of vitamins, good habits, and happiness. Just throwing it all together. Now, if I'm being really picky, this is not the rigor that I would expect from you as AP seminar students, but you can see all these important components that need to be in there. If I'm being picky, I would have wanted to see much stronger evidence that's more credible to defeat that, since Jamie Oliver is considered an expert in terms of food. But you can see the structure there. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me and try to look for some other counterclaims on your own. Hope you learned something you didn't know before. Thanks for watching.